My brothers and sisters, let me start by telling you this. When the hand of God is on your life, you cannot remain unnoticed. You cannot blend into the background. You cannot live an ordinary life. The anointing of God is not a quiet whisper. It is a blazing fire that shifts atmospheres, shakes foundations, and calls attention from both heaven and hell. If you carry God's anointing, there will be dangerous proof all around you. You won't have to announce it. Your life will announce it for you. Understand this, anointing is not just a title, not just oil poured on your head, not just a position in the church. Anointing is evidence of God's divine power flowing through your life. It is his seal that says, this one belongs to me. And when God marks you, everything about you becomes dangerous to the enemy. Your words carry weight, your prayers move mountains, your presence shifts the room, and your obedience tears down strongholds. Have you ever wondered why you don't fit in? Why no matter how hard you try, you can't seem to blend into the crowd? It feels like you're always out of step, always a little too different, always standing out, even when you want to stay hidden. Let me tell you something, this is no accident. When God's anointing is on your life, he separates you. He refuses to let you live a copy and paste life because his fingerprints are all over you. The anointing marks you in a way that makes you unrecognizable to the world and undeniable to heaven. You are chosen, you are set apart, and you are carrying something too valuable to be wasted in the background. Think about it. Throughout history, God has never used people who blended in. He didn't call Moses to hide in Pharaoh's palace forever. He called him out to stand in front of kings. He didn't allow David to remain a forgotten shepherd boy. He pulled him out from the fields and set him in front of giants. He didn't keep Esther as just another face in the crowd. He positioned her in the palace for a mission only she could fulfill. God will not allow you to stay ordinary when his extraordinary oil is on your life. The anointing separates you because you are meant to disrupt, not to conform. Some of you have been asking God, why can't I be like everyone else? Why can't I just do what they do, go where they go, and live the way they live? The answer is simple. You're too anointed to fit into average. You're too marked to live in mediocrity. What satisfies them will never satisfy you because your spirit has been called higher. The movies, the music, the lifestyle, the easy compromises, they may be enough for others, but they'll leave you empty because God put something in you that refuses to settle. That restlessness you feel is proof that you're not designed for the crowd. You're designed for the calling. And yes, separation feels uncomfortable. It means people won't always understand you. Friends may walk away. Family might not get it. The invitations will stop coming and the conversations will shift when you walk into the room. You'll wonder why circles that once embraced you no longer include you. But don't mistake rejection for failure. Often it's divine redirection. God is pruning relationships, cutting away distractions, and pulling you away from the noise so that he can prepare you for what only you can carry. When the oil is on you, you cannot expect everyone to approve of you, because what God placed in you intimidates what's around you. Let's get real. Separation is not isolation. It's preparation. You're not being left behind, you're being positioned. When God separates you, he is refining you, shaping you, and equipping you in secret so he can reveal you in power. That's why some doors closed that you thought should have opened. That's why some opportunities slipped away that you thought were perfect. That's why some relationships ended that you thought were forever. God was saying, I cannot let you settle there because I've got something greater for you. If he had let you fit in, you would have gotten stuck. If he had let you blend in, you would have lost your fire. But because you're carrying his anointing, he makes sure you stand out even when you don't want to. The separation may feel like loneliness, but it's actually evidence. Evidence that you are chosen. Evidence that you are different. Evidence that you are marked for more. People might see your difference as a weakness, but in the kingdom, it's your strength. The very thing that makes you too much for others is the very thing that makes you just enough for God. Your uniqueness is not a mistake. It's a mandate. That fire in your spirit that won't go out. That vision in your heart that won't die. That hunger in your soul that won't be silenced. That's the anointing separating you. setting you apart for something greater than yourself. Have you ever stopped and asked yourself why the battles in your life seem so intense? Why it feels like the storms hit you harder than others? Why the fire seems 7 times hotter in your situation? It's because opposition is not a sign that you're failing. It's a sign that you're carrying something powerful. The level of your struggle is often the clearest evidence of the size of your calling. Hell doesn't waste resources on people who pose no threat. The enemy doesn't fight what isn't valuable. If he's been coming after you, it's because there's something inside you that scares him. The anointing on your life carries weight, and that weight attracts warfare. Think about it. Why did Pharaoh pursue Moses so relentlessly? Because Moses wasn't just a man, he was a deliverer. Why did Saul hunt David with such obsession? Because David wasn't just a shepherd boy, he was a king in waiting. Why was Daniel thrown into the lion's den? Because his devotion to God carried an authority that could not be silenced. Every time God raises someone up, the opposition rises with them. That resistance you feel is not punishment, it's confirmation that you are chosen for something bigger than yourself. Some of you keep asking, why me? Why is my family under attack? Why is my mind always in a battle? Why do I face betrayal after betrayal? But let me flip the question, why not you? Could it be that the enemy recognizes your potential before you fully do? Could it be that the attack is not about your past, but about your future? The pressure you're facing is a dangerous proof that you are carrying influence, carrying authority, carrying something that will shift the lives of others. Notice this, the stronger the attack, the greater the assignment. When you find yourself surrounded, when it feels like the walls are closing in, when the darts keep flying, it's often because you are on the edge of breakthrough. Resistance always shows up right before release. The enemy tries hardest to discourage you at the point when you're closest to stepping into destiny. That's why things intensify. That's why relationships start to crumble. That's why finances get tighter. That's why temptations increase. Because he knows if he can't stop the oil, at least he can try to stop you from believing you carry it. But here's the reality. Every giant in front of you is a billboard announcing your next level. Goliath wasn't there to destroy David. He was there to reveal him. The Red Sea wasn't there to kill Israel, it was there to display God's power. The furnace wasn't there to consume Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, it was there to prove that God walks in the fire with his anointed. So the opposition you are facing is not working against you, it's working for you. It's the platform where God shows his strength, and it's the stage where your anointing shines brightest. Let's get honest. Opposition is uncomfortable. It feels unfair. It makes you question yourself. It makes you wonder if you're really called, if you're really equipped, if you're really anointed. But the very fact that you're still standing in the middle of it proves that you are. The darts didn't destroy you. The betrayal didn't break you. The heartbreak didn't paralyze you. You're still breathing, still pushing, still pressing forward. That's not weakness, that's evidence. Evidence that the anointing on your life is stronger than the opposition around you. Some people will look at your life and only see the battle, but they won't realize the battle is the confirmation. You didn't choose this fight, it chose you because of what you carry. The anointing draws opposition the way light draws insects. The brighter the light, the more the attack. But without the light, there would be no attraction at all. So if you feel like you've been under fire, it's only because you've been shining too brightly for the enemy to ignore. Have you ever walked into a room and felt every eye turned toward you even when you didn't say a word? That's not by accident. That's the weight of God's presence resting on your life. The anointing attracts attention because it cannot be hidden. You may try to keep it quiet, you may try to downplay it, you may try to disguise it, but the oil on your life has a voice louder than anything you could ever say. It announces itself, it shifts atmospheres, it demands recognition. When the anointing is present, people notice, enemies notice, heaven notices, and hell surely notices. Think about Joseph. His brothers hated him, not because of what he had done, but because of the favor on his life. Before he ever wore a crown, before he ever ruled in Egypt, he carried a dream that attracted jealousy. David wasn't hunted by Saul because he was ordinary, but because the oil on his life had already marked him as king. Jesus himself didn't need to advertise his authority. Demons cried out in fear when he simply walked into their territory. That's the reality of the anointing. It speaks louder than position, louder than possessions, louder than status. It is a spiritual magnet that draws attention whether you are ready for it or not. Some of you wonder why people are watching you so closely. Why they're talking about you when you haven't even done anything. Why your name keeps surfacing in rooms you've never stepped into. It's because the oil is testifying for you. It's because the hand of God on your life cannot be ignored. You don't need to campaign for recognition. The anointing makes you unforgettable. That's why opportunities chase you down. That's why doors swing open that you didn't even knock on. That's why influence finds you in the most unlikely places. The presence of God in you speaks a language the world cannot deny. But let's be clear. The attention the anointing attracts is not always positive. Some will be drawn to you, inspired by you, uplifted by you, but others will be intimidated, jealous, or even hostile. Why? Because your light exposes their shadows. Your fire convicts their comfort. Your presence stirs something in them that they cannot explain. The anointing makes people see you differently, not because of who you are, but because of who is in you. And when God's power rests on you, it disrupts the atmosphere for everyone around you. Some will love it, some will hate it, but no one will ignore it. Have you noticed how certain people enter a room and suddenly conversations shift? That's not charisma, that's the anointing. It's the undeniable evidence that you carry more than just yourself, you carry the presence of God. And when you carry that presence, chains begin to weaken, heavy hearts begin to lift, and strongholds begin to shake. That's why people feel different around you even if they can't explain it. That's why environments shift when you step in. The oil on your life isn't silent, it speaks into the very air around you. And yes, with that attention comes responsibility. Because when people see you, they are actually seeing the God you represent. When they hear your words, they are hearing more than just your voice. They are hearing the echo of heaven behind it. That's why you cannot afford to take lightly what rests on your shoulders. The anointing is not just about you being noticed, it's about God being glorified through you. Every eye that turns toward you is an opportunity to point them to Him. Every word you speak under the oil has the power to plant seeds that shift destinies. So don't be surprised when you can't go unnoticed. Don't be shocked when both admiration and opposition rise in the same breath. The oil on your life demands attention, and it will draw both the applause of heaven and the attacks of hell. That's how powerful it is. You may feel ordinary, you may feel unqualified, but when the anointing rests on you, you carry a presence that refuses to stay in the background. Have you ever noticed how people are quick to celebrate you when everything looks perfect? When the applause is loud, when the spotlight is on you, but when the storm hits, the crowd disappears. That's because the dangerous proof of your anointing is never found in the cheers of people, but in your ability to keep standing when life tries to knock you down. Applause is temporary, but endurance is eternal. Anybody can smile when the sun is shining, but it takes an anointed person to worship in the midnight hour, to keep moving when the weight is crushing, to keep believing when nothing seems to make sense. Endurance is the language of the anointed. Look at the lives of the ones God used mightily. Noah endured ridicule for building an ark when there was no rain. Abraham endured decades of waiting for the promise of a son. Joseph endured betrayal, slavery, and prison before stepping into his palace. Paul endured shipwrecks, beatings, and prisons, yet he kept on preaching the gospel. None of them had applause during their struggles, but their endurance was the undeniable proof of God's hand on their lives. The world may measure greatness by followers, likes, and applause, but heaven measures it by who still stands after the storm. Some of you have been through storms that should have destroyed you. You've walked through fires that should have consumed you. You've faced betrayals that should have broken you. But here you are, still standing, still believing, still holding on. That's not weakness, that's proof. Proof that the anointing on your life is real. That the grace of God is carrying you, that the oil is protecting you even when you don't feel it. You don't need to prove your calling by shouting louder or posting more. The fact that you've endured hell and still haven't given up is all the evidence you'll ever need. And here's the truth. Storms have a way of revealing what applause never can. Applause only shows up when you're winning, but endurance shows up when you're losing and still refuse to quit. Applause is loud in the light, but endurance whispers in the dark. Keep going. Applause can fool you into thinking you're strong, but endurance proves that your strength doesn't come from you, it comes from God. That's why storms don't destroy the anointed, they reveal the anointed. That's why trials don't silence your voice, they amplify it. That's why endurance becomes your loudest testimony. Have you ever wondered why you didn't break when others would have? Why you didn't lose your mind when the pressure was unbearable? Why you didn't walk away when it would have been easier? It's because the anointing sustains you in ways human strength cannot. Endurance is not natural, it's supernatural. It's God holding you together when everything else is falling apart. It's Him giving you the ability to breathe in the fire, to stand in the storm, to walk through valleys and still declare, though I walk through the shadow, I will fear no evil. This is why endurance is more dangerous than applause. Applause fades, applause shifts, applause disappears. One moment they shout, Hosanna, and the next moment they cry, crucify him. But endurance keeps you rooted when opinions change. Endurance keeps you standing when friends betray you. Endurance keeps you moving when doors close in your face. Applause may celebrate you, but endurance sustains you. And if you are still standing today after all that you've been through, it means you are walking in a dangerous proof that cannot be denied. Have you ever realized that your voice carries more power than you think? Not just the sound that comes from your throat, but the words that are released from your spirit when the anointing is on your life. Your voice under the anointing is not ordinary. It becomes a dangerous weapon. When you open your mouth, things shift. Chains begin to weaken. Atmospheres begin to change and strongholds start to crumble. That's why the enemy works so hard to silence you. That's why he attacks your confidence, your boldness, your identity, because he knows that if you ever discover the power of your voice, you will tear down kingdoms of darkness. Think about it. When David stood before Goliath, it wasn't his sling that first defeated the giant. It was his voice. He declared, you come against me with sword and spear, but I come against you in the name of the Lord. Before the stone ever flew, his words established the victory. When Joshua and the Israelites marched around Jericho, it wasn't the march alone that brought the walls down. It was the shout, a shout fueled by faith, a shout filled with divine authority. When Jesus stood before Lazarus' tomb, he didn't touch the stone or enter the grave. He simply lifted his voice and declared, Lazarus, come forth, and death had to obey. Your voice is not just sound, it is spiritual ammunition. Some of you have been quiet for too long. You've let fear mute you. You've let doubt silence you. You've let the opinions of people keep you from speaking. But don't you know that silence is the enemy's strategy? He knows that as long as you stay silent, you stay bound. As long as you stay silent, your family remains under attack. As long as you stay silent, your destiny is delayed. But the moment you open your mouth with authority, the atmosphere changes. The moment you declare the promises of God over your life, chains start to break. The moment you speak faith instead of fear, victory begins to manifest. Your voice is not like everyone else's. It carries weight. Heaven responds when you pray. Demons tremble when you declare truth. Mountains move when you speak in faith. That's why you can't waste your words. You can't afford to speak defeat when God has given you the power to speak life. You can't waste your breath on gossip or negativity when your voice was designed to command breakthroughs. Your words create your world. If you want to see change, you've got to start speaking change. If you want to see victory, you've got to start declaring victory. If you want to see doors open, you've got to start calling them open with your mouth. Have you ever noticed how battles intensify right when you're about to pray? Suddenly distractions come, your mind wanders, your body feels tired. That's not coincidence, it's opposition. The enemy fears your voice because he knows your words carry authority. That's why you've been attacked in your throat, attacked in your confidence, attacked in your ability to believe what you're saying. But the proof of your anointing is that even when you feel weak, your words still carry fire. Even when you feel unworthy, your prayers still shake heaven. Even when you feel small, your declarations still strike fear and hell. And here's the truth. Your weapon doesn't have to be loud to be powerful. You don't need a microphone. You don't need a platform. You don't need a crowd. Whisper a prayer in faith, and heaven moves. Speak one word in alignment with God's will, and chains break. Declare one sentence with conviction, and the enemy loses ground. Your voice under the anointing is never wasted. It is always heard, always effective, always powerful. Have you ever caught yourself shrinking back just to make others comfortable? Have you ever dimmed your light because you didn't want to stand out? Or kept silent because you feared what people might say? That's the trick of the enemy, convincing you that humility means hiding, when in reality, humility means surrendering to the call of God and walking boldly in it. The oil on your life is not meant to be concealed. The anointing is not designed to be locked away in a corner. It is meant to be carried with confidence, displayed with courage, and lived out in authority. When you walk boldly in your proof, you step into the fullness of what God has already spoken over you. Think about Joshua. He had to step into the shoes of Moses, a man everyone knew as the great deliverer. Fear could have held him back, but God's command was clear. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Boldness was the requirement for him to lead. Think about Esther. She could have stayed silent in the palace, hiding her identity, but she chose to walk boldly and declare, if I perish, I perish. That boldness saved a nation. Think about Peter. The same man who denied Jesus 3 times became the one who stood boldly on the day of Pentecost, declaring the gospel with such authority that thousands were saved. Boldness is not arrogance, it's evidence. Evidence that you believe God is with you. Evidence that you trust the oil on your life. Evidence that you refuse to live small when heaven has marked you for impact. Some of you have been living beneath your anointing because you've believed the lie that says, what if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if people laugh? But let me flip that for you. What if you succeed? What if you're more than good enough because God called you? What if your bold step unlocks freedom for someone else? Playing small doesn't serve anyone, and it surely doesn't honor the God who placed greatness inside of you. Boldness is dangerous proof because it shows the enemy that fear no longer controls you. It shows people around you that you've tapped into something bigger than yourself, and it shows heaven that you are ready to steward what God placed on your life. Walking boldly doesn't mean you won't feel fear. It means you move anyway. Boldness is stepping forward when your knees are shaking, when your voice trembles, when your mind tells you it's impossible. Boldness is standing in front of the Red Sea and lifting your staff, even though you've never seen water split before. Boldness is throwing the net on the other side even when you've caught nothing all night. Boldness is laying your hands on the sick and declaring healing even if you've never witnessed a miracle before. Boldness is not about confidence in yourself, it's about confidence in the one who anointed you. Have you ever noticed that when you finally take a bold step, doors start opening? Boldness has a way of unlocking opportunities that timidity could never touch. Boldness makes people take notice. Boldness sets you apart as a leader, as a voice, as someone who carries authority. And here's the truth. When you walk boldly in your proof, you give others permission to rise up too. Your courage sparks courage in someone else. Your fire lights the flame in another. Your willingness to stand makes someone else believe they can stand too. That's the ripple effect of walking boldly under the anointing. The reason so many people stay bound is not because they lack potential. It's because they lack boldness. They have the gift but refuse to use it. They have the vision but never speak it. They have the anointing but keep it buried under fear. But you cannot afford to live like that. The oil on your life was meant to flow, and it only flows when you step out. Boldness is the bridge between the calling you carry and the impact you make. Without boldness, the proof stays hidden. With boldness, the proof becomes undeniable.